All right, so Qual3, now we've only got 3 cations, magnesium, calcium, and barium. So let's take a look at how we're going to do this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to add some potassium chromate. And as you can see in your lab manual, that'll form a precipitate with the barium. So barium 2 plus this chromate will form a solid barium chromate. And so that's the precipitate you may or may not see depending on if your barium is there. And then the magnesium and the calcium will go ahead and stay in solution. So you can do other confirmatory tests for barium as well. One thing you can do is a flame test. And you should see a nice green flame. Unfortunately, this didn't quite work out for me too well, so I didn't include it in the video. But that's okay because we've got another confirmatory test, and that's upon the addition of H2SO4, some sulfuric acid. If you think back to Chem 101, barium and sulfate will form a solid precipitate. And so this solid precipitate will also indicate that you have barium. And so if you see the solid, barium is there. All right, I've got my known and my unknown. The first step here is to add some potassium chromate until any precipitation seems complete. You can see it's kind of a yellow solution. So let's go ahead and do that. First, the known. That looks pretty cool. Next up, the unknown. So you can see it turns yellow, but there's no precipitate forming. It's just turning yellow because I'm mixing the two. So I'll go ahead, centrifuge this one, and then make sure that any precipitation is complete. All right, so off screen, I've centrifuged our known solution. So you can see the stuff's on the bottom there. I'll add a little bit more chromate to make sure precipitation is complete. And those little swirls you see are just the solution mixing. There's no actually precipitate being formed there. So we're good to go there. Next up, I'll decant and I'll save the supernatant for part B, and the precipitate I'll use for the flame test. Cool. So I'll go ahead and use this for the flame test. All right, so one more confirmatory test we can run here. We can add some water. So I got some distilled deionized water. Add a little bit excess, that way it's easy to see. And then we could add some sulfuric acid, and there should be a white precipitate upon the addition of the sulfuric acid. So let's check this out. Right, and you can see that white precipitate forming. So again, just another confirmatory test. That takes care of the barium. Next up, we're going to take a look at the magnesium and calcium. So we're going to take a look at the calcium first. So to this solution, we're going to add some ammonium hydroxide, followed by some, I think it's potassium oxalate, yep. And when we go ahead and do this, we're going to see a precipitate form, and our precipitate is our calcium oxalate, while our magnesium stays in solution. We can take this calcium further, or just to kind of reconfirm that it's there, and then do a flame test. And here what you're looking for is a red-orange flame. And then that'll confirm the presence of your calcium. All right, so we've got our supernatants from earlier. First thing we're going to do is going to add some ammonium hydroxide. It says until orange to yellow, but it's already kind of yellow colored, so we'll see what happens. Should be good enough. And then after that, we're going to add some potassium oxalate, and we should see a precipitation occur if our ion is present. So you can see the precipitation forming there. A little bit closer. Plenty of precipitation there. And then to our unknown. So you can see precipitation is forming here as well. So you can see off screen, I've gone ahead and centrifuged my two solutions to white precipitates. Now I'll just decant and save the supernatant for later. And then same as the previous flame test, we're going to add some HCl to both of our precipitates. Give them a good stir, and then we'll flame test. All right, so flame test time. I've cleaned off my inoculating loop numerous times with HCl, and you can see the flame is relatively colorless. So we're going to try our known first, so this one should give us a positive test, and what we're looking for is a red-orange flame here, so let's see how this goes. Try it one more time. You can see that red right in that beginning. So I'll wash off my inoculating loop a couple times, then we'll try the unknown. All right, so you can see we're back to this kind of relatively colorless flame. So let's go ahead and test out our unknown. Kind of see that bright red in the beginning. One more time. All right, so all we've got left is our magnesium now. This is a pretty straightforward test. We're going to add some ammonium hydroxide, followed by some hydrogen phosphate. And upon the addition of this, if your magnesium is present, you will see the formation of a precipitate, which is this kind of magnesium ammonium phosphate complex. And then that's it. Back to our previous supernatant, we're going to take some ammonium hydroxide, add 2 to 3 drops to each. And then after that, we are going to add 2 to 3 drops of this sodium phosphate. Whoops. And what we're looking for here is a white precipitate, and we're going to need to heat it for it to show up. All right, so we've got our water bath approximately at 90 degrees Celsius. It's a little higher, it's dropping now. And so we'll just put our two solutions in there and give them a few minutes and see if we see the formation of a white precipitate. So you can see it's actually not taking very long. We can tell our known is forming this white precipitate while our unknown has yet to. Give it a couple more minutes, see what happens. And we can see our known has a white precipitate, our unknown does not.